Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
And we're going to tell you why.
So, hi, it's Matt. And this week, Don was under the weather. So, I got my friend Katie Sundermann to join me today as a fill in guest host. Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to come and make this podcast still happen this week. I really appreciate you. How are you doing this week?
It was good. Thank you for inviting me and having me on. This is so exciting. I'm doing really good. This last couple weeks have been crazy because my husband and I are doing a huge home remodel on our living level. So we're trying to work through like paint and flooring and kitchens and cabinets and all that fun stuff. And I am not a designer or anything like that. So it's been a lot of choices that I have no clue what I'm doing. So it's been a crazy week.
Sounds overwhelming for sure. My wife and I've talked about doing that at some point. I think we both kind of like approached it sometimes and like, oh, that's a lot of work. Maybe we'll do it next year. It just hasn't happened. So I commend you.
Yeah. It'll be great once it's done. And it'll be fun to like live in a house that we enjoy again. But oh, so much work.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a crazy day for me because today was the 9th annual advising conference at the University of Cincinnati where I work. And I was actually the chair of the planning committee for that. It has been a journey getting that to happen, especially because we had to switch from the idea of doing it in person versus online back and forth like 6 times as we tried to get it off the ground. It's supposed to happen last September. We had to postpone it because COVID and burnout and stuff like that. But today it finally happened. Of course, we're recording this on Friday, so it didn't happen on Saturday. So happened on Friday. Really happy with it. Really happy to have that mental load off my plate. So I'm
you're going to be so relaxed next week.
Oh my God, be so relaxed like right now, just like
right
to have that done with. But yeah, looking forward to the Super Bowl. What are you doing for the Super Bowl?
We're just going to chill at home with the kiddos, have some appetizers, and just watch the game. What I should say is I'm not really rooting for anybody. I'm just excited for the halftime show. Are you rooting for anybody or what are your plans?
Yeah, as a proud Cincinnati transplant, I'm very, very much on board the Houday bandwagon for the time being. A lot of people who I love dearly, a lot of my in-laws and stuff like that, of course, are huge Bengals fans. So this is a really big moment. And, to be in the city where it's happening, the populace is, united and like loving it. There's a lot of energy in the air. There's a lot of excitement around it. So really fun time to be living here.
Do you think that they have a chance? Think the Bengals can win? I mean, I'll root for them any day over the Rams, but I'm rooting for them.
Like on paper, no, I don't think they stand a chance at all. But the thing is, that's been the case for like most of the games they've won for the last, like month and a half. So like they beat the Chiefs twice, so and of course, with the Rams, we're looking at, Aaron Donald up front and a lot of other really good defensive players behind him too. Got to contend with the Jalen Ramsey. I think Jamar Chase can outrun Jalen Ramsey. I think that's
for sure.
That's not a matchup I'm too worried about, but just suffice to say, with how good the defense is for the Rams, it'll be a problem for sure. But at the same time, Joe Burrow is he's a young freak who likes to get hit. Like he's actually come out and said that like he likes getting hit. So, which is good because the O-line for them is not great. So, do they stand a chance of winning? Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely stand a chance. Do I think they're going to win?
Yeah.
No, but man, I hope they win. That'd be so great.
What about like the Bengals defense against Stafford? Like, can they take his picks if they give it to him?
Absolutely. Yeah. The Bengals defense is amazing. We're actually talk about that a little bit later, but I do think that with, with their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, he's done amazing things. He's been likened to like a mad scientist before. And that's apt because just the way how he's tinkered with their defense throughout the season has been amazing. So I think they'll be ready for the offense. I think, like you said, will they catch picks from Stafford? Because that's going to happen. That's inevitable. Stafford's been Stafford. So,
always.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you mentioned appetizers. Do you have any like kind of Super Bowl traditional appetizers or anything like that?
Yeah. So, and it's actually my kids' favorite. Like they ask for it for random supper times too, but it's just chicken wrapped in bacon and then
Ooh,
deep fried. And then for the adults, we put some jalapeno pieces inside of it. But
nice.
my kids devour it. So that's like a big one. And then just some chips and dips and like a dill pickle dip.
Dill pickle dip.
So yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you said
Do you
bacon, like,
remember?
sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just say chicken wrapped bacon like you had me there. Then you said and then deep
I
fried.
know.
I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
very
Right.
exciting. So what were you gonna say?
Was it Jen Mack who put the thing about like the Midwestern sushi rolls where it's
Yes.
like pickles wrapped? Yeah, yeah. So I make that into a dip.
Ooh,
Yeah. So then you just dip crackers. So it's just cream cheese and like cut up ham and garlic salt and yeah, and just dip, and
nice.
obviously pickles.
Obviously pickles.
Anyway, yeah.
That sounds delicious. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, for us, what we'll be doing is going over to my father-in-law's place.
Okay.
And mother-in-law. I mean, they're married, so and he's gonna have a fun Super Bowl party. There'll be Skyline, which is the chili, the local delicacy of Cincinnati. It's the best brand of it, in fact, and it's gonna be a good time. My kids actually have the day off from school because Cincinnati Public Schools said, you know what, day after the Super Bowl, no school. We want you guys to celebrate as much as you want to on Sunday night, which I think is like
love it.
as much for like the kids to like enjoy the experience as it is for like as it is recognition of the fact that like teachers, principals, vice principals gonna have, potentially, have a bit to drink on Super Bowl night. So like let's let them, sleep that off.
For sure.
So
That's smart.
It's very humane, very humane. So
Yeah.
all right. So I have some stuff in here that Don would usually go over about where we're at in the season. So do you want to take that?
Yeah. So we're obviously really close to the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday is the official end. But we'll still have a lot of neat content and guests for the off season. And next thing you know, it's going to be the off season. So Super Bowl is obviously this weekend, 2 days away. We've kind of talked a little bit about that. Do you have, yeah, I said I'm not really rooting for anybody. I want Stafford to win, but I'm not a fan of OBJ and the fact that they have the whole super team going. So I'm all for rooting for the Bengals. Joey being his cigars, you can't go wrong.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That guy's got charisma.
Oh, he does. He's got swag like no other.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you didn't know this, last night, the NFL honors were on. Did anything surprise you?
I would say, I mean, of course, I was really, really hoping that Leroy Butler was going to get into the Hall of Fame, but I just didn't think it was going to happen. I was really worried for him. So I was very pleasantly surprised at that one. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, but the whole entire, honor show, right? But I did check out Andrew Whitworth's speech from the end, and that was outstanding.
Okay. I missed that. What did I miss?
Oh, I can't even summarize it. You just gotta check it out. It's really great. It'll give you some feels. It's really nice.
All right. I will look into that.
Yeah.
One thing I will say I was annoyed with, and we kind of talked about this earlier, is I don't understand the whole coach of the year. I don't understand what Matt LaFleur has to do to win coach of the year.
Right.
Like the only way he can win it is to win without Rodgers, because going 13-3 in his first 3 seasons is insane. And then to do it this year with all of the injuries we had, I don't understand.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
So it was,
I mean, so say like I understand like the arguments for Vrabel against LaFleur, all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, like I don't agree with those arguments. I don't think like they're valid enough to really discount what he's done.
Yeah. And obviously the big argument is, Derrick Henry, but which, I mean, they didn't have Derrick Henry and that's fine, but, and he's their like road to the offense and the offense goes through him. But like I said earlier, Packers were missing 4 of their 7 Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
And we still win 13-3 and got the number 1 seed. So I don't know. I don't get it. And LaFleur has the best eyebrows in the country. So that alone should win it.
That should be its own separate award for sure.
It really should. Yeah. And then we kind of talked about the Super Bowl, but let's have a good game. And I'm really excited for the halftime show. It'll be amazing for the Super Bowl.
It's gonna be incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's get to some superlatives. some
Yeah.
superlatives. For the week, what do you have, Matt?
All right. Well, our first one is most interesting peek behind the curtain. So, as hopefully people know, Kate, that is, Colorado girl, Wisconsin world is kind of her handle, or also Tailgate, I think is how she's putting it now. Started a podcast really recently, Tailgate with Kate. And it's really good. Kate has a very engaging personality. She's really good at like talking to her guests. And this episode was actually a week ago on Saturday. It was an episode that featured Alex Green, formerly of the Packers. So she was talking to him about his journey from growing up, getting into the NFL, his battles with addiction and depression, and how he's gone through it and come out on the other end now. He's I think like 3-ish months sober at this point. So just to hear some of the darker details of what it's like to go through the NFL, especially if you aren't starting, if you're kind of in the back burner on a team, and kind of the difficulties you can face with that. It was an amazing episode. I'd highly recommend it. Even if you never listen to any episode of Tailgate with Kate, check out that one for sure. I've been really enjoying getting caught up on those episodes that she's made.
I will definitely be checking those out. I got to meet Kate when I went to Wisconsin, Green Bay, for the Lions, the second week of the season.
Mm-hmm.
She was actually the first person I met, and I hung out with her the whole weekend and got to stay with her. And she is just an amazing human. So I love her. I need to listen to her podcast, but
she is an amazing
something
human.
tells me she does great.
The lead she's taken
really
on.
is.
Sorry, go ahead, Katie. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say she really is an amazing human. It's amazing to see what she's been doing on Twitter lately. The whole Thirst Trap Thursday with Packers Twitter and all that. Like she's an amazing person.
Yeah. And the body positivity spin that she's brought to it, and that has really like become the central message of it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, my second one then is best discussion. So friend of the show, Erin Ellis, and Monte Moore, who have their show 4 Downs, or who had their show 4 Downs. It was the series finale. On the episode, they talked about racism in the NFL, especially in regards to coaches hiring. It was an amazing discussion. It was frank. It was real. It was just them kind of talking back and forth with a lot of really interesting perspective from Monte, who for those who don't know, Monte's a black man and Erin's a white woman.
Yeah.
So to hear their dialogue and how it went, it was really outstanding. And like I like to think that I'm fairly well educated on matters like that. But it even opened my eyes to a couple of things that I never considered. So sure. even if you think you're super woke out there, folks, there's still always things to learn, and I'd recommend that episode. Did you hear that one?
I have not. I've taken a break from Packers podcast for a little bit.
So tell me about that. A break from Packers podcasts.
Yeah. So my podcasts are it's all either true crime or it's Packers, and I just couldn't continue to listen to that awful loss to the Niners. And so it just became too overwhelming and made me so mad and so sad. So I'm like, all right, mental health, let's just cut it out for a little bit and just take a break, and I'll jump back into it in a couple of weeks. But it was just too much.
Totally get that. And I think that Dawn and I have talked about the last couple episodes is that the grieving process is different for everybody. For me, it was like watch the football games the next day, try to flush it out of the system. The Packers loss, that is, kind of get back into what I love about the game itself, and then just kind of get back into listening to the podcasts and helping that to just remind me of what I enjoy about these things, outside of just like rooting for my team. That was my process, and it's different for everybody. If it's isolating yourself, or I shouldn't say isolating, but putting it away for a bit, I think that's totally healthy.
Yeah. And I still love the team and I love the people, but I get so invested in the people that when something like that happened, I'm like, oh, I just needed a break.
Totally get that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Back to true crime, because that's good for your mental health too.
We'll get back to that in a second too, because I want to hear about your superlatives, but I do have one more first. My last one is best analysis. So Ollie Connolly, who we've actually mentioned on the show before, really early in the life of the show, I talked about an article he had written about the tendencies that Matt LaFleur has in his offense and how other teams have been combating them. So that was really like a really cool article he wrote months ago. This week, he was on the Athletic Football Show, which is the one that Robert Mays hosts, which, by the way, if folks out there aren't listening to that, it's outstanding. Like every episode's really great. I always learn stuff from it. Robert Mays is a Bears fan, but he does take an objective view of things and has a lot of great insight and really great regular co-hosts like Nate Tice, for example. But anyhow,
Wow.
Ollie Connolly was on the show, and he talked about the Bengals defense. He's a huge Lou Anarumo fan, and was able to provide a lot of insight. And the thing about the Bengals defense is the way they've like changed and evolved over the course of the season to become this like stifling force, for me, has been confusing. It's like, how did they get so good at them? What did they do? Well, yeah. Ollie Connolly kind of got into that, and like how Lou Anarumo has been tinkering with the defense's approach, schemes, looking at like counters to what they usually do to, you know, surprise other teams, just being as he's been called a mad scientist with it and evolving it. And so hearing Ollie Connolly talk about that was very illuminating and like just answered a lot of questions I had and also didn't realize I had. So excellent episode.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
especially before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. It was like one of those like lead up to the Super Bowl, like get your mind in it kind of things. All week Robert Mays on the Athletic Football Show has been doing great episodes for that kind of a thing. Mina Kimes' episode this week was really great for the kind of thing too. I think a bigger point I want to make here is that though I, of course, consume a lot of Packers content, I think it's very good for football fans to also check out some of the national stuff, like Robert Mays, like Mina Kimes, for example, both good examples of people who make great shows, just to be more well educated and have a better sense of the context. Because though I'll always be a huge Packers homer, I do like to see how the larger discussion is like, what's the context? So yeah,
that's awesome.
My three. Do you listen to any national podcasts when you're kind of during like football podcast listening season?
No, the Pat McAfee show. Yeah, I mean, that's not a podcast, counts. But I definitely listen to him during the season. And then Ian Rappaport used to do like an Ian and Friends. That was another great podcast. But no, I'm all about the Packers when it comes to the season.
Totally. So you had a couple of really cool superlatives you were telling me about before we started here. So take the floor, Katie.
Okay, so the first one I am going to stick with the Packers. And it's my first superlative is about time, in reference to Leroy Butler finally getting into the Hall of Fame this year. I had been watching it this is his third year in a row. The first year it surprised me that he didn't get into it. And then I started listening to podcasts about it, and Pete Doherty of the Milwaukee Journal, I believe. Yeah. He is actually the one who goes and gives a speech as to why Leroy Butler should be in the Hall of Fame. And they do a podcast, Tom Silverstein also, that they do a podcast called the Green 19 Podcast. And last year, Pete Doherty was on it. So when Leroy Butler didn't get into it, Pete actually came on a week before the inductions were named. And Pete said, yeah, no matter what's going to happen, this isn't going to be his year because they can only take 5 of the 15. And so based on the 15 finalists from last year, he's like, Leroy isn't going to get in. Like, this isn't his year. But next year, which is now, the 15 people that were a part of the group, like, this is kind of like let's get the people in that should have been in a long time ago because there wasn't a strong enough class, according to Pete. So he said, it's not going to surprise me at all if he didn't get into it in 2021, but 2022 would for sure be his year based on the other candidates. So that was really interesting. And Pete just goes into a room before the people and he gives a 5-minute speech about, these are some of the things that Leroy has done and why he should be in it. So it was really interesting here. So it's just really awesome for Leroy to finally get into it. I mean, he is the creator of the Lambeau Leap, so that should have been the number one reason for him to get into it. But he was also one of the first hybrid safety cornerbacks. No, cornerback, linebacker. I don't know.
Linebacker.
I struggle with that. Linebacker, sorry. He was one of the first hybrid ones. He
Actually,
was a
it'd be
four-time all.
defensive back. Wouldn't it be defensive back? Because those are like safeties and cornerbacks. What is it? The
Yeah,
terminology is confusing. It does. So
I know. I should know better. Like, but I mean, I can tell you who our safeties are, but
there you go. That's right.
I don't know what they do. Anyway, he was one of the first hybrid ones, so that's kind of cool. He was a four-time All-Pro. He was a 1990s All-Decade member, and he was the last and only 1990s All-Decade member that was not in the Hall of Fame until yesterday. He was the first player ever to have 20 interceptions and 20 sacks, which is a prototype for the modern day safeties. And for the Lambeau Leap, like I said. So those are just a couple of reasons why he should have been in it sooner. So it's so great for him to finally be in it this year. And I'm just so happy for him. He's so deserving of it. He's a great human. I'm just so happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing you said, that he's a great human. That's where I was going to go with it too. He just seems like just a great guy, just a good person.
Yeah.
So just very deserving all around.
Absolutely. So, you and I know each other kind of obviously from Twitter. Well, another follower, Kelly, I think it's ESERTK on Twitter. She is a huge Leroy fan, and she was like, hey, I'm going to be in Green Bay this weekend. I think she's from Milwaukee. And she put it out on Twitter, I'm going to be in Green Bay this weekend, Leroy, and I'd love to meet up with you. And he contacted her and they met up together. Like, that's the kind of human Leroy is. Like, he's a man of the fans. And it was very cool. He's just a very cool dude.
I think I saw that picture on Twitter, actually, of the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it. Yeah.
So cool. That is so cool. All
right.
So I'm
very happy for him.
Yeah. So that was a great one, Katie. And you had another one you want to talk about too, right?
Yeah. And then while I was thinking, I came up with a third one.
Ooh, nice.
So as I said, I haven't been into Packers podcast the last couple of weeks after that god awful game. So I've been back into my true crime, and you kind of talked about earlier with Erin and Monte and racism. And so my second superlative is the most mind blowing. And it literally blows my mind how racism is such a thing in America. Like, I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. It's just like, what? So I've been listening to my true crime podcast, and one of my favorite is called True Crime Garage. And it's just two dudes drinking beer, talking about true crime. Anyway, in 21, so just a few months ago, there was a murder in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm sorry, not a murder. There was a mysterious death, is what they're calling it. And it was a young girl who was a guy called 911, a guy that she met on Bumble, the last person to be with her. He called 911 saying, this girl that I just met is unresponsive in her apartment. I stayed the night, blah, blah, blah. Like, a lot of stuff went into it. That's not the point of this. The point of this is that the detectives in the case, she is a young Black female, and the detectives in the case just did not do their job. And it's largely because of racism. And it's come out that the entire police department, not the entire, but coming from the top down, there is a very serious racism problem. In fact, the detectives didn't even notify the family of her death. They found out a day and a half later when they showed up to her apartment to try and get a hold of her. And there was a note on her apartment door from her landlord saying, if you're looking for her, go call the police or whatever. So that's how her family found out that she had passed away. Wow. And the crazy thing is that exact same scenario happened 3 days before with these exact same detectives. They didn't notify the family, and it was another Black or African-American woman who had passed away. And so then that's when things started getting looked into in the police department and the detectives. And obviously the detectives have been put on leave, but like, there's just no place for racism. Like, and but like, police are there to protect and serve. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. And that's everybody. So to have racism and choose blatantly to not protect and serve these people, it's just mind blowing to me. Like, get out of that job. Don't even be in that job if you're that kind of trash human being. So it was just, it's insane. Mind blowing is the only way that I can put it. Like the captain of the police department put out in an email that he called the Juneteenth celebration a parade of the N-word. And I'm like, what? In 2021? What? Like, how is this still a thing? I don't understand. So hold on one second. Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Katie, what's the name of that podcast?
True Crime Garage.
True Crime Garage. I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's, if you like true crime at all, that's one of the really good ones. I mean, I can tell you all of them if you want me to, but in the case is the girl, her name is Lauren Smith Fields. And so it's just look into that case and it'll just blow your mind, and not in a good way.
We'll check that out for sure. All right. So you have a third one you said too that you thought of, right?
Yeah. So my third superlative is the most, we'll go with patriotic. USA. Are you watching the Olympics?
No, I'm not. No, because I had a
man.
bad experience with the Summer Olympics. This last one, I was like, forget it with the Olympics. So no, tell me about it. What did you see?
Well, Shaun White,
Mhm.
he did his last run ever last night. He retiring from snowboarding. He's been doing it for 19 years.
Wow.
This is his 5th Olympics. And he groomed the snowboarding into what it is today. So I watched him do his final run. He did not medal, which was like a major disappointment, but the people that medaled absolutely deserved it.
Mhm.
So that was a bummer. But so I watched him go down and do his last, and then I switched to the NFL honors to see that Leroy Butler got in. I was a hot mess last night. So that was fun. And then curling, all the Wisconsin guys for men's curling, they won the gold 4 years ago. So I'm hoping they'll do the same. But if you haven't seen a picture of Matt Hamilton, look him up. Like, he is the epitome of Wisconsin and America. So
USA.
yeah, right? I love the Olympics. So I'll just throw it on randomly and just have fun watching it. And of course, there's another Russian drug scandal, because why wouldn't there be?
Of course.
I mean, there's always the Russian drug scandal. So yeah, Olympics, I love it.
Totally. What's your favorite event on the Olympics, on the winter and then also summer?
Well, summer's gymnastics, obviously.
Yeah, I know, right?
So,
the best.
Yeah. And then another cool thing is with the Summer Olympics, gymnastics, and Simone Biles and her mental health and all of that from the summer. Michaela Schifrin, she's a downhill skier. She's kind of dealing with a lot of the same stuff this year because her dad passed away this last year. So like mentally, she's just not 100% there. And then her first 2 races, which are her 2 best races, she skied out of them, meaning she crashed within 5 seconds of one and 11 seconds of the other, which is like, so then it's like, are you going to continue on? Because she's going to go for 3 more. And just like, she's just been so upfront about, it's okay that, and she said this, she's like, I failed, and it's okay to say that I failed, and failure is okay. And we just got to learn from it. And so that's been great too. But anyway, gymnastics in the summer, obviously, and curling. I love curling in the winter.
I have tried to watch curling and I find it very confusing because I don't know the rules. I mean, that'd be true of any sport you watch that you don't know about.
Yeah.
So I guess just like briefly, what do you like about curling?
It's such a chess match. And I feel like it's obviously athletic, but when they're sweeping and whatever, but I feel like any normal human can do it, So I feel like I could go out on the ice and curl where I cannot figure skate. But it's such a chess match, and you have to be thinking 5 steps down the road and what your opponent's going to do. And it's so fun to watch. And they're normal humans. So yeah, I love curling.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Katie, I loved your superlatives. These were great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being willing to jump in last second to fill in for Dawn. I really appreciate you. So tell the folks, where can we find you on the socials?
You can just find me on Twitter. It's at Katie Sundermann with 2 N's at the end. All
right. Of course, you can find the show on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Hey, we like your pod at Hey WLYP. Dawn is way better at this part than I am. That's HEYWLYP. And I'm Matt Trombone on Twitter. That's 3 T's in the middle. Friends, please subscribe, rate, and share. Hey, we like your pod wherever you listen. It helps us grow our audience and keep spreading the love.
Yeah, it really does. And we appreciate you all for joining us here. Matt, thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. I appreciate it. Totally. So we're both sorry.
Background here for everybody. Like Dawn always like types out like the script and stuff like that. So Katie's like adapting it right here and stuff like that. But you're killing it, Katie. You're killing it. So go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us here. We're both so glad to know you and be fans of you and have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL, the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
We appreciate your support, subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod. Yes, Katie. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you. That was so fun.